Hi, and welcome to Nursery Rhymes in Modern Times, where we investigate the nursery rhymes of old and how they fit, or maybe do not, into our modern or contemporary society. Today, we are going to be talking about ageism in nursery rhymes. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but there are so many nursery rhymes, especially the older ones, that have to do with old people. There's Old MacDonald, this old man. There's the little old lady who lived in a shoe. There's the little old lady who swallowed a fly. There are so many instances where the primary character in a nursery rhyme is labeled as old. And that is a question for all of you. Have you ever heard or told a nursery rhyme where suddenly you say, we don't really say that so much anymore to describe people? Or even if you think about a big fat hen, the word fat is generally not something that is used a lot with kiddos anymore. We might use big, right? Or there's other ways to get around using words that people might find offensive or demeaning or hurtful in some way. So, taking that into consideration, things like using the word old in a nursery rhyme, how does that impact the kiddos that are listening? So it may not mean anything directly to them. For example, if they have this old man, he played knick-knack on my thumb with a knick-knack, paddywhack, give a dog a bone, this old man came rolling home. So you have things like that. You got old a lot of times in there. There are benefits to doing the song, counting, using silly words to practice different sounds that you're making with those words and the sounds that kiddos end up using in their day-to-day speech. But is that impacting the people at your story time or in your community in a negative way? So as you're approaching nursery rhymes that, again, are pretty commonplace, that folks are used to hearing because they grew up with them or their parents grew up with them or they grew up singing them in school, there's reasons to use nursery rhymes like this, but then there's also reasons to consider whether doing so is the most positive choice when you have so many to choose from. So when you have things like the little old lady who swallowed a fly, if you're unfamiliar with this one, it has to do with a lady who eats a fly and then eats various other things to try and get rid of the fly, and then ultimately, in the original version anyway, that she dies at the end. And this also is something that tends to be changed a little bit. You might change the word die to cry, for example. So there are ways that people have changed the words of these songs in order to make them a little bit less harsh or a little bit more inclusive. And as we've talked about before, changing the words is good, but it also does change some of the meaning of the original song. And is that enough? And also, is it necessary? Is there a reason for us to continue carrying these songs through the lineage with kiddos when there's so many other great options to choose from? I would love to know how using words and songs that maybe speak to people in a negative or perhaps really culturally insensitive way or ageism insensitive way, if those have impacted you personally or the community that you serve, your families, things like that. I'd love to know what choices you have made around those things and what choices you might make moving forward as you start thinking about them a little bit more. Please feel free to share in the comments below. You can also reach out to me directly. My contact information is there as well. And please also like, subscribe, and share to keep this conversation going, to find out how this is working into the lives of caregivers of young children around the world. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you soon.